Maayong hapon, Cebu, and welcome to INQTalks, a discussion with the experts. This session is brought to you by Cebu Landmasters, Inc., in partnership with Inquirer Property of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. I am Mona Maceda, your host for today. I'm from Philippine Daily Inquirer as well. And I will be your host. So our title for today's discussion is Why Real Estate is a Smart Investment Even in Uncertain Times. We are delighted to have you with us today, both our guests here in Cebu and those joining us online, as we bring together industry leaders and experts to explore the evolving real estate landscapes, particularly in VisMin. Through initiatives such as this, Inquirer Property has for quite some time championed meaningful discussions and provided valuable insights that inform and empower property investors, developers, and stakeholders. Today's conversation will unpack why real estate continues to stand strong even in uncertain times, and where the most promising opportunities lie for investors and stakeholders. So before we begin, we encourage everyone to actively participate in today's discussion. If you have questions for our speakers later, please write them down on the pieces of paper provided during the registration. So our team will collect them later after the break. So without further ado, let us begin. In today's ever-changing environment, uncertainty has become the norm. Yet despite this, real estate continues to provide its resilience. This afternoon, we aim to provide you with insights that go beyond the headlines, helping you better understand the market, identify opportunities, and make more informed investment decisions. So before we begin, I'd like to invite on stage the Executive Vice President and Chief People and Marketing Officer of Cebu Landmasters for opening remarks. Let's all welcome Ms. Joanna Marie Bergendal.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Mayang hapon, Cebu. All right, so welcome to the very first INQTalks with Cebu Landmasters and Inquirer Property. Tech, this is a dream come true for CLI. So I hope this will be the first of many. Please, a round of applause to the Inquirer team for allowing us to partner with them this time, but we hope to have more in the future. And also, segue, welcome to Radisson Red. Yes, finally, right? So Radisson Red is not yet open, but I want you to be the first to know that it is finally opening next week. A round of applause. I don't know if our hotel head is here. He's somewhere here. But yeah, it's finally opening next week, and you're one of the first to see it. So please enjoy the property, look around, and enjoy Radisson Red that is finally open today. So thank you for spending time with us to take a step back from our busy lives to talk about a very relevant topic. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions today. Some of you are worried, are quite bothered, and would really want to understand what are the effects of this ongoing crisis to our beloved industry, real estate, correct? So let's answer and unpack this question. So why is real estate a smart investment even in uncertain times? Is it really a smart investment during these uncertain times? Guys, yes or no? Yes. Sure? Yes. Are we sure? Confident? Yes. All right, so let's let our panel of judges, our speakers today answer that question, convince us, ask us, give us advice about what to do, what not to do. So we're very happy that we have today, of course, our speakers with Tech, Dr. Stan, Joey Bondok, and our very own Franco Soberano. So they will be introduced properly later. So for now, let's have a very insightful and productive afternoon. Let's ask all the questions that you might have. Thank you for being with us, and have a good afternoon.
So, thank you Thank you, Ms. Joanna Marie. Now, to set the tone for today's forum, we have a distinguished voice from the industry to provide us with an update and market review of the real estate sector. May I now call on the Inquirer Property Sector Editor to share her insights. Let us all welcome Ms. Tex Samaniego.
Maayong buntag, Cebu! I say, maayong hapon. So again, thank you for welcoming us into your home and making us a part of your property journey again. You know, this is something that I cannot stress enough. Cebu is a very special place for Inquirer Property because this is a space, I would like to believe, where we've had some of the most interesting and insightful conversations about real estate. You know, if our flight yesterday was any indication, we almost got offloaded because it was a full flight. If it were any indication, then I think for many, Cebu is not just a place to visit, but rather it is a place where you want to have a piece of the property or even your own space. So I think that sense of energy, demand, and opportunity is exactly what makes Cebu the most exciting real estate markets in the country today. You know, if I may just share a short anecdote, when we were thinking of what topic to actually discuss, and when this title actually came about, in all honesty, I was very hesitant because I couldn't get myself to agree with it right away. Why? Because I've seen it many times, from the global financial crisis, the Asian financial crisis, COVID, and even all the political upheavals. Despite the uncertainties, one thing will always remain certain. And that, my friends, is our need and desire to have our own space, which we can all call our own. All of us, every day, we build our own story, our own legacy. And part of that, I'm sure all of you will agree with me, is securing a property. So this brings me to the pillars which I believe strongly support this idea that even in the most challenging and uncertain times, property investment should never be put on hold. And here are my four pillars why I believe it should not be put on hold. Number one, you live in Cebu. You have developments in Cebu. And what is Cebu? A dynamic destination, which means opportunities abound here. We Manileños, we appreciate Cebu. We love Cebu. And those opportunities continue to help fuel the demand for spaces, be it residential, office, retail, dining, or leisure. Second, real estate offers physical, tangible asset that you can use, lease out, redevelop, or eventually sell. Then third, real estate, I'm sure many of you know this already, offers two engines of returns. One is through capital appreciation. Second, through leasing. And then last but not the least, my fourth pillar would be, and many experts would actually claim this, real estate serves as an ideal or viable hedge against inflation. In real estate, I always tell this, you cannot lose money, especially and only if you partner with a reputable developer who has a very strong track record, such as Cebu Landmasters, which has a strong, extensive portfolio of products. But then again, I will leave it to the expert to better make a stand or a case in this discussion or in this forum. So for now, I will give the stage back to our host, and I'm looking forward to an insightful discussion with you. Maraming salamat po sa aming mga Cebuanos na kasama ngayon. Thank you and looking forward to an insightful discussion.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tech, for the insightful and comprehensive market review. Your perspectives have provided us with a clearer understanding of the trends shaping today's real estate landscape and have set the tone for a meaningful and engaging discussion this afternoon. Indeed, your insights remind us that even in uncertain times, the real estate continues to present valuable opportunities for growth, resilience, and long-term investment. Do you agree with me? Good. So with that, we now move on to the next segment of our program as we hear from distinguished speakers who will further explore why real estate remains a smart investment in challenging economic conditions. Let us proceed with our first presentation. Our first speaker will help us understand the broader economic forces shaping the property sector. He will be sharing insights on from economy to estate, understanding the Philippine property landscape. He is an industrial economist and professor of strategic management and the former president of the University of Asia and the Pacific in 2015 to 2025 and has extensive experience in research, policy advocacy, and consultancy. He has advised various industry associations and corporations on business strategy, competitiveness, and economic policy, contributing to key industry initiatives across sectors such as real estate, electronics, and franchising. A frequent speaker in local and international forums, he also serves as an independent director of several companies, including Cebu Landmasters, Inc. He holds degrees from the University of the Philippines, the Center for Research and Communication, and the Lasal University. Let us all welcome Dr. Winston Conrad B. Padohinog.
Thank you very much, Mona, for that kind introduction. I would like to greet Franco, Jamie, and the guests here with us in this briefing this afternoon. Before I proceed, I would like to share with you two important perspectives. One is that there will always be a crisis. Meaning, if you look at history, we will always face a crisis. The crisis, remember, in 1989, we have the coup d'etat in Manila, which creates so much havoc for our Philippine economy. Remember 1997, the Asian financial crisis, when the exchange rate suddenly shoot up from 26 to 42 to 46. Remember that? In 2008, also remember, we have the global financial crisis. Then later, we have the 2020 lockdown, global lockdown. And now we have the war in the Middle East. So what's the first conclusion? Expect a crisis. Expect uncertainty. It will always be there. Second, when we talk about property and real estate, you cannot think as if it's like a fast-moving consumer good. It's a long-term investment. Therefore, when you think about properties, when you think about real estate, you think long-term. You just don't go into real estate decisions or investment decisions related to real estate without due consideration of the future. So remember, real estate is a long-term decision. So if you want to go into it, the perspective will have to be long-term. So decision-making will have to be considered at the long term. So any decisions that you have to make will always consider the fact that there will be a crisis, and yet there will be opportunities in the crisis. Now, let me share with you why property markets, regardless of what will happen, will still be a necessity for our economy, especially for the Philippines. Let me just show to you how I will explain this. We need to understand what drives the property market. Regardless of the crisis that we face, regardless of the calamities, these drivers will always be present, specifically in the Philippines. I will share with you some of the ones. And then, what is its impact on real estate investments and growth? And finally, we have to consider its non-economic impact as well. Now let's talk about some key drivers. I'm only given 15 minutes, so let me just share with you key drivers. And these are drivers that will always be present regardless of who the president will be, what will be the next crisis that we'll have to expect. This will remain there. First, population and household dynamics. The dynamics will always be there regardless of the operating environment. You have to understand the Philippine demographic structure. I will explain that. And the source of work, employment. Because you're not talking only about volume, you're talking about value. We're not only talking about quantity, we're also looking about quality. So when we look at that, it's very important. And affordability and stability, especially in light of the current efforts in the area of housing. I'm looking at housing there. So let me begin with the first one. You could see that the population will continue to grow. Although you have seen there that the population growth rate is slowing down, which is very normal for any developing economy. And you will see that we're looking at almost 140 million by the year 2050. What does it mean? There will always be demand for property. There will always be a demand for space. So what I would like also to emphasize here, which is very important for all of us Filipinos, as the next slides will show, that we need to also take note and take stock of the decisions that we make in our families. I will explain to you later why that is important, especially if you want real estate to even grow faster later. Next, households. So as the population grow, people decide to separate from their families. The others will decide to form their families. The others will decide, maybe I need a retirement home separate from my children. There will be household formation. And household formation means demand for housing, for example. Demand for other amenities related to property, retail real estate, the industrial zones that may need to house these industries, the commercial offices where people will work. So, again, you have to look at it long term. So, if you look at this, 2050, we will have 33 million families from about 26 million this year. One thing, again, did you notice the first two slides? The population and the household formation is slowing down. And that brings me to a very important point, as I have said. As I have been doing a campaign together with my colleagues, the average size per family is shrinking. Now, if we Filipinos love our country, we should have a patriotic duty to at least produce 3 children per family. Because the replacement rate is 2.1. 2.1. So, for those who are thinking of having kids, Franco can tell you that, Joey, and of course, Mr. Joseph Verano, they're doing their patriotic duty. We need to make sure that we will be able to replace those who will be going before us. Again, just want to show you. The news came out, remember, three weeks ago? It's now 1.7 child per fertile woman. We should not allow that to happen. So, let's bring back that patriotic duty. 3 children per family, at least. Now, also remember that our economy continues to progress. And while they are working, going to school, ultimately they'll join the labor force, either as employees or as entrepreneurs. So, with this, you can see, by the way, you see 2 statistics here. underemployment and unemployment. No? So the unemployment rate, if you notice, has been falling, single digit. That means many Filipinos, no, have work. Underemployment, those who, I know that they have work, but they don't work for 8 hours, full 8 hours a day, or they have other work related that is not related to their profession, etc. No? So underemployed, but yet employed. No? So there will be purchasing power. And this will always be a thrust of any economy to generate employment and therefore purchasing power. Next, the demographic dividend. It's a term in economics where the most productive sector of the economy is in the labor force or in the employment or the entrepreneurship level. That is between 15 to 64 years old. But I'm not trying to say that those who are 65 and above are not also contributing. But unlike any other countries, in the Philippines, all the way to 2040, you have a very young, dynamic, English-speaking, culturally adaptive, young population. That's very dynamic. Other countries won't have that anymore. We don't have that luxury. We have that luxury here in the Philippines. All the way to 2040, we have a lot of window. But mind you, I have to tell you, if you look beyond 2050, it will start shrinking also. That's why we still have room to recover. Na? From 1.9, let's recover to 2.1. So that we will have that demographic dividend that drives the economy. They are the most productive segment of our economy. Again, these are drivers of real estate. They drive property demand. And very interesting evolution is that more and more Filipinos are moving to the cities. In fact, more than half of the population is moving to the cities. Urbanization will be something that will be around us for a long time. In fact, estimates will see that by 2030, 60% of the population will already be in urban areas. And you know, in urban areas, those areas are usually already congested, so you need more efficient land use. Those areas we need now more amenities. We need support real estate amenities like office, real estate, entertainment, industrial zone, logistics centers, no, etc. No? So, very important factor to consider on where the movement of property demand will be in the future. And if you have to look at some of the interesting feature here, I'd like you to see that about 8% of the population is dependent on OFW remittances. That means that every time the peso depreciates, they're very happy. That means every time the peso weakens, that means that's more peso for every US dollar. And how about the IT BPO? The IT BPO sector, which contributes about 8% of our GDP, also becomes competitive every time the peso depreciates. They're already over 2 million here, BPOs. In fact, in Cebu is the next largest hub in terms of IT BPO. So you could see that there is a portion of the economy that is also very resilient. But also remember that you have a significant portion there who are salaried. No? And these are the ones that we have predictable incomes. And when you have predictable incomes, that is the favorite target also of the financing institutions, the property markets, that support the property markets. And if you look at the government has been making it very affordable for the property market, even for the private commercial banks. If you notice, the HDMF, Home Development Mutual Fund, we call that Pag-ibig, has made their interest rate fixed even lower than the interest rates provided by private banks. And yet, there is available choice for the household to choose from. But if you want to even go lower, socialized housing, financing, the interest rates is even much, much lower. So we could see that there's a diverse source of financing that the Filipino households and the Filipino population can consider. So what are the impact on the property markets, not to end? First, it unlocks the economic value. That number that you see there, 3.19, means that for every 1 peso that, for example, a broker or successfully sells a property, it generates ripple effect, 3 pesos and almost 3.2 pesos per 1 peso spending. It's a multiplier effect because every time you put up a building, you could see the support industries here. You could see steel, you could see cement, you could see the lights, no? You could see electrical wires, you could see the carpets, the chairs. Because of a 1 peso spending, it can create a ripple effect. Let me make a comment now as an aside. The only way for the Philippine economy to start growing is to spend. Our government, together with the private sector, must spend. That is why you have to monitor the government's spending because you remember the last week, no takers yet of DPWH projects. No, they need to spend. Otherwise, we will have a situation where the economy is slowing down and inflation is very high. That's not a good situation. We refer to that as stagflation. But I think spending is easier than earning, right? So I think our government should be able to stimulate spending. Every time we stimulate spending in property, it unlocks economic value, 3.2. For brokers here, if you are very successful in closing a deal, your multiplier effect is 2 pesos. No? So you're contributing also to the economic activity. That's a very important impact. Next, market forces respond to market needs. I know that because of the nature of the private and economic system here, wherever is demand, usually investors make that necessary decisions to accommodate that requirement in the market. Next, it triggers growth of other sectors linked to property developments. There are so many industries that are stimulated every time we go into real estate activity. And again, it brings about prosperity. No? And asset preservation and growth of property holdings. Because every time we buy property, we create scarcity. When you buy land, the land becomes scarce. And scarcity generates value. So every time you make a successful sale, there's an ownership for that, it's their scarcity. And when there's scarcity, there's value that is being preserved. And sometimes not being preserved, it's even growing because, as I have shown to you, many of the drivers of our economy is also growing. And finally, I have my estimates here. There is still a lot of segments that we still need to cater to. And I'm very happy that Cebu Landmasters is very much focused in segments where the growth market are found. By the way, I'm sometimes questioned with my estimate of the surplus, 500,000. I'm telling you there's a surplus somewhere there on the high-end market, upper middle. That means it's not based on need. It's based on other reasons. But anyway, whether the backlog is 6 million, it's negative 2 million backlog, or it's 10 million, what is important is stimulate production of housing. Let's not waste so much time on estimating the backlog. Let's think about how to stimulate and encourage developers to produce on the right segment. And finally, to end my talk, They are what we call non-economic estate benefits for housing. First, it improves health and education outcomes. Children are able to finish their studies. The health and well-being of the family members are much better off than not having a house at all. And that has a lot of economic impact. Next, it enhances mental and physical health. It promotes civic engagements. I know that sometimes when you're together, there's a lot of chismis there, etc. But it's okay because there we'll be able to lower down crime incidents and promote social interaction and collaboration. People tend to work together when they are in a community of housing. And promotes a sense of autonomy and dignity. So if someone buys a house and it's their house, they do everything to preserve that. Because that gives them a sense of dignity as a person. And that's very important, non-economic aspect that we need to consider. And finally, it enhances the wealth effect. For someone who has property, that gives them a sense of wealth, that they have something that really belongs to them ultimately. So that concludes my presentation, and I hope I was able to convince you of the opportunities that are available in the real estate. Think long term, just accept that there will always be uncertainty and risks. The secret is, from this uncertainty and risks, let's not forget that there are also opportunities on hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Winston, for that insightful discussion. I think what really stood out is how real estate doesn't operate in isolation. It is deeply connected to the broader economic environment, and understanding those signals really gives us investors an edge in navigating uncertainty. Our next speaker brings valuable research-driven insights into emerging regional markets. He will be discussing VisMin on the rise, unlocking residential investment opportunities. He is the director and head of research at Colliers Philippines, providing strategic insights on market trends and investment opportunities. He covers office, residential, retail, leisure, and industrial segments, conducts macroeconomic analyses, and assesses the impact of economic growth to the sector. He also handles client engagement through market overview, presentations to equity analysis, investors, and real estate companies. Please welcome Mr. Joey Bondo.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Dr. Padohinog, for laying the economic foundation of our presentation this afternoon. Of course, I want to thank Inquirer again and Cebu Landmasters, Joey, Franco, for inviting me. And I want to provide updates on what's happening to the Philippine real estate market. Dr. Padohinog gave us the economic fundamentals and what do we expect moving forward. Definitely there are opportunities amidst all these uncertainties that we are seeing right now. And we believe that moving forward, we just need to be proactive. Developers, investors just need to be proactive on what's happening right now. How can we tap all these opportunities that we're seeing right now? And we believe that we can get through all these crises. We saw that during the Asian financial crisis. Tech mentioned that I was still a preschooler back then. The global financial crisis of 2008, 2009, of course, the disruptive COVID-19 pandemic. So overall, we believe that the property market continues to evolve, and we are seeing that. So let me just do a quick recap here of what's happening to the Philippine economy. Of course, Dr. Padohinog mentioned some economic fundamentals earlier, but the Philippine economy grew by 4.4% in 2025. The Philippines contracted, if you remember, 2020 by about 9.5%. And that is not an impressive record. But after that, the Philippines grew by about 5 to 6% on an annual basis. If you look at the Philippine economy right now, we're still one of the fastest growing economies in Southeast Asia. But of course, there are challenges given the Middle East crisis, the increasing prices of oil. But if you look at certain regions across the Philippines, and I want to focus on Central Visayas, it's one of the fastest growing, if not, no, the fastest growing region in the Philippines. And we believe that this is happening because Central Visayas has a very dynamic economy. So the demand is coming not just from services sector, the BPO sector, construction, of course, as Dr. Padohinog mentioned. Central Visayas, particularly Cebu, is the most active, most attractive BPO site outside of Metro Manila. And we've seen that. Colliers is also handling office leasing, and Cebu is one of the most active markets right now. Remittances continue to drive retail and residential demand. In fact, there's an interesting BSP survey noting that about 14% of remittance receiving households are in fact allocating money for real estate purchases. And of course, given that the remittances continue to increase, of course, we need to factor in what's happening in the Middle East right now. It's interesting to see developers aggressively holding roadshows outside of the Philippines. And I can tell you that OFWs indeed buy properties. Whether it's a leisure-oriented condominium development or a house and lot in southern Luzon, including Cavite, they are buying these properties. So as you can see, Central Visayas accounting about 6% of total remittances. This is the survey that I mentioned earlier. So a very notable and positive development, especially for OFWs, because they find the value in property, in acquiring property. And we believe that this will likely continue, and especially once we see the Middle East crisis stabilizing or being resolved. I want to focus on this one because, as you know, the central bank has been very aggressive in cutting interest rates. The basic policy rate right now, 4.25%. But the problem is, for the overall monetary sector, we're not seeing a substantial decline in mortgage rates. Banks are still at about 7.8% bank mortgage on a 5-year term. But given that, of course, inflation will likely increase, this is one indicator that we need to closely observe, especially if you have buyers that are looking at certain macroeconomic indicators. We believe that interest rates, inflation, and of course, mortgage rates, as you can see here, should be considered moving forward. We always say this, and I hope Dr. Padohinog would agree, that there's no economic recovery story that will be complete without infrastructure. Whether you call it build, or build better more, the Philippines has really been aggressive in allocating money on infrastructure development. 5 to 6% of our country's GDP in absolute terms, that's about 1 trillion pesos allocated on infrastructure. Of course, you probably heard some news reports saying that the Philippine Congress did not allocate money, the counterpart funding for certain infrastructure projects, therefore resulting in significant delays, 3 to 4 years. And I'm talking about the Metro Manila Subway, North-South Commuter Railway in Luzon. But Central Visayas will be a major beneficiary of this golden age of infrastructure push. And in fact, we're seeing these across Cebu, Cordova, Link Expressway, of course, total project cost of 30 billion, completed already. Cebu Bus Rapid Transit, which is, of course, ongoing and hopefully results in better commute transportation for a lot of employees and even businessmen. Of course, Metro Cebu Expressway beyond 2028. And we always say this is the beauty of infrastructure. They are likely to be completed, especially once they have been started already, even beyond the term of any administration. Again, there are other projects across Cebu, including Cebu-Mactan Fort Bridge. Again, another project that will likely be completed even after the current administration, of course, Lapu-Lapu Expressway, another key infrastructure project, especially just imagine the prices that you will be able to unlock within Lapu-Lapu area once this project is completed. And of course, let's not forget Cebu-Bohol Expressway. So again, this is one project that we believe will unlock prices, not just in Cebu, but also in Bohol. In fact, we have heard some developers already land banking in Cebu, as well as Bohol, especially because of this project lined up by the government. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Cebu is the second most active office market across the Philippines, only behind Metro Manila. And Cebu continues to attract a lot of outsourcing companies, especially those that are providing higher value outsourcing services. What do we mean by that? These are companies that are not just providing back office, email support, chat support. They are higher value outsourcing companies that continue to drive occupancy. That's why in Metro Manila, the vacancy for the office sector is 20%. In Cebu, it's lower than that. It's 17%. And what's interesting for Cebu is that in 2025, we recorded about 120,000 square meters of demand, office space demand. Well, if you look at Cebu, you'd be lucky already if you record 100,000 square meters of office space transactions, meaning 2025 was a very good year. That's why even if the vacancy in Cebu is about 17%, if you look at certain business districts, say Cebu IT Park, Cebu Business Park, their overall vacancies, in fact, are much lower than the overall Cebu office vacancy. And of course, this is a good news for Cebu Landmasters. They have buildings in these two major business districts housing large multinational outsourcing companies. So there's a tempered supply of a new office space in Cebu across 2026 beyond 2026. So there's a limited supply that we are seeing right now. The good news is that demand is coming not just from outsourcing companies, but also from traditional companies. English as a secondary language companies, those providing software engineering services, they continue to locate here in Cebu. And why not? Cebu has a very good infrastructure network. You have skilled manpower. The demographic sweet spot, of course, being experienced by Cebu at this point. You have young, millennial, Gen Z-dominated workforce that are very skilled. That's why, in fact, we have some clients, when they were looking at the Philippines, they did not locate first in Metro Manila. They first set up shop in Cebu. And that company is, in fact, one of our clients. Is called FPT Software. It's based in Vietnam, but it's now looking at further expanding its footprint. Let me now lead you to this. If you know someone from the BPO sector, they would probably tell you that these are among the major outsourcing companies in the Philippines. The good news is that they are already here in Cebu. And of course, let me emphasize that some of these companies, of course, are being housed in office buildings by Cebu Landmasters. So it just indicates that Cebu really is a very attractive office location. You have high quality office buildings that are housing these major international, multinational BPO companies. That's why, again, if you look at Cebu, similar to what I mentioned earlier, 121,000 square meters, meaning when you look at the key locations outside of Metro Manila, Cebu continues to stand out. After Cebu, you have Pampanga, where I am from. But again, I have a lot of contributing factors, a very dynamic workforce, a very good skilled manpower. BPO companies, as I mentioned, continue to gravitate towards these key locations. In fact, when you look at certain provinces and cities outside of Metro Manila, Cebu IT Park and Cebu Business Park are among the more competitive business locations and addresses. So let me now shift to one of your favorite segments, the residential and the vertical market, the condominium sector continues to grow in selected cities outside of Metro Manila. You probably heard stories, news reports saying that there's some slowdown in certain parts of Metro Manila. We cannot deny that. The good news is that when you go to areas outside of Metro Manila, demand continues to proliferate and remain strong. In fact, Cebu will supply the biggest new condominium supply beyond 2026 outside of Metro Manila. And if you look at this figure here, what does this indicate? The condos in Cebu are already 86% sold. That is one of the greatest, fastest take-up of condos that we have recorded outside of Metro Manila. Imagine Cebu has the biggest residential condominium supply outside of Metro Manila, but its take-up is nearly 90%. So one example, of course, is the wave by Cebu Landmasters and Cebu IT Park. What are we seeing now? There is a premiumization of condominiums. We cannot deny the fact that in certain parts of Metro Manila, there's a slowdown, but the premium condo segment continues to perform well. That's why it's no longer surprising for us from Colliers to be seeing developers, including Cebu Landmasters, to really take advantage of this growing demand from the premium, luxury, ultra-luxury segment. So some examples of condos here by Cebu Landmasters, and as you can see, certain locations across Cebu. The good news, of course, is that even if you go outside of Cebu, Cebu Landmasters has these projects that continue to perform very well. In fact, these projects are sold out already, and I hope, Franco, we're getting the take-up rates correct. But if you look at the dynamics right now, what's contributing to this? What's contributing to the price increase? It's mainly because of the increase in demand. As Dr. Padohinog mentioned, scarcity creates value. And because of the strong demand that we're seeing for condominium in Cebu, especially Visayas areas, including Bacolod and Iloilo, there has been a sustained price increase in these selected projects. It is also the allure of leisure that we're keenly watching, because Mactan is a very attractive location for Japanese, South Korean visitors. And if there is one trend that we saw being highlighted by the pandemic, and of course Tech would agree because I've done a lot of briefings with her, there is a strong demand for leisure-oriented developments. Some projects in Metro Manila, admittedly, not doing so well. But when that developer, same developer, developed a leisure-oriented project outside of Metro Manila, say in Batangas, Condotel, that project is sold out. And we're not seeing that not just in Metro Manila. We're seeing that even outside of Metro Manila, including in Cebu. And of course, Cebu is a very attractive location. In fact, it is one of the most visited, or let me correct that, the most visited domestic destination outside of Metro Manila. While there are challenges in terms of attracting foreign visitors, a paltry, 6 million in 2025, the domestic market continues to grow, and Cebu continues to capture a large chunk of these domestic travelers that we're seeing in the market. So overall, it's really the leisure-centric development that are very attractive, because for a lot of developers, they have been very aggressive in differentiating their projects. You have a massive township, but what do you offer? You offer a 5-star hotel, you offer a golf course. Those contributing factors will eventually redound to an increase in prices of your house and lot-only development. Now, let me shift to the horizontal sector. Again, if there is another trend that we saw being facilitated by the pandemic, it is the growing demand for large, more open, greener spaces. And as you can see here, Cebu has the biggest horizontal house and lot stock outside of Metro Manila, especially in Visayas, Mindanao. The good news is that even if Cebu has the biggest supply, look at the take-up rate, 93%. Essentially, if you have 100 house and lot units right now being actively marketed and sold, 93 are taken up already. And again, of course, Cebu Landmasters is one developer that has really been aggressive in tapping this demand for house and lot projects. Look at these developments, 80 to 100% sold. Very strong take-up for these developments in Consolacion, Danao, and of course, if you look at other areas also, similar to my earlier discussion on the condominium market, Cebu Landmasters project in Iloilo, Bacolod, Davao, and Cagayan de Oro. Again, very strong, very stellar performance, 97 to 100% sold. Note that these are figures as of end of 2025. So this project in Cagayan de Oro, I won't be surprised if this is sold out already. And we believe that this house and lot segment continues to grow, continues to abound. Not just in VisMin, but even if you go to Luzon. South Luzon is one region that has one of the biggest house and lot stock across the Philippines. The good news is that if you look at Cavite, it has the biggest house and lot supply in the southern Luzon region, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas corridor. But look at the take-up rate, an impressive 95%. That's why if you look at house and lot projects, since they are recording very strong take-up, the price appreciation is stable, 1.7 to 5.8%, particularly 2% for the Cavite, Laguna, Batangas. That's why we're very optimistic, especially with this Cebu Landmasters project in Cavite. It's a flagship Luzon township, 70 hectares, 6,000 homes to be built, initial phase in 2027. This is one segment of the property, the house and lot segment, that continues to grow. In fact, not just the house and lot, even lot only. And again, looking at these areas here, they have a very strong take-up and a good price appreciation potential. So overall, we're very optimistic, not just for the vertical, condominium, house and lot, but even for the lot-only segment. So having considered all these factors right now in the market and all these market dynamics, why invest? Because we believe that the property has less volatility compared to Philippine stock shares. Of course, there's a potential for continued recovery in prices and rents. And we see that, we saw that Philippine property is highly cyclical compared to how the Philippine economy performs. But we saw how prices and rents increased after the Asian financial crisis, after the global financial crisis, and particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic. And then overall, if you look at the key consideration, why still invest? Of course, location. Look at a location where there's a strong end user demand. And this is one key consideration that we see. I watched Franco's interview on ANC, and he highlighted the fact that, you know, for a developer, it's important that you thresh out that end user demand, because we believe that having a strong end user demand really spells the difference for developers. If you're able to capture a strong end user demand, there's also a strong price appreciation potential. Of course, when you're investing, you consider the track record of a developer. If they say that they will be able to turn over your condominium in 5 years, they should be able to do so, no questions. And then rental prospect. If the condo has been turned over, will you be able to rent it out to an outsourcing employee in Cebu, to an expat in Cebu? And of course, price. Given that there's some challenges in certain locations, well, developers have been offering attractive payment terms. So if you are a buyer, especially if you are a broker and you want to really guide your potential customer, you really need to provide all those options. And of course, proximity to institutions. What do we see now? In a master plan community You have universities, schools, clinics, theaters, coliseums. And again, all of these new features and factors will contribute to a greater price appreciation potential. And of course, redound to the convenience of your buyer and customer. So overall, we're very optimistic with the Cebu's prospects. In fact, even the VisMin so potential for further growth. But Cebu, Bacolod, Iloilo, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, because of improving infrastructure, the young, dynamic workforce. BPOs here in Visayas, Mindanao are very competitive, not just in Cebu, in fact, Davao, of course, Bacolod, Iloilo. That should result in a greater demand for residential units. You have dynamic retail landscape, and overall, you have a relatively cheaper cost of living. That's why even expats continue to gravitate towards these key locations, including Cebu. So that concludes my presentation. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I'm willing and excited to network with you later. Mona?
Thank you, Joey, for those valuable insights. It's exciting to see how VisMin is no longer just an emerging market, but a key growth area with real potential. At the same time, it's clear that understanding the nuances of these markets is just as important as recognizing the opportunity. So for those who have questions, we encourage you to write them down on the provided sheets when you registered earlier, and then submit them at the drop box located at the registration area. So selected questions later will be addressed during the panel discussion. And before I introduce our final speaker, would like to acknowledge the presence of the Chairman and CEO of Cebu Landmasters, Mr. Jose Soberano. Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for being here. Thank you. All right, so for our final speaker, he will share the developer's perspective on building resilient and future-ready communities. His session is titled Future-Proofing Real Estate, Resilient Investments, and Community-Focused Growth. Our final speaker is a seasoned leader in the real estate industry, currently serving as the Director, Senior Executive Vice President, and Chief Operating Officer of Cebu Landmasters, Inc., where he oversees the company's end-to-end operations from acquisitions and business development to construction, sales, and property management. He has played a key role in expanding the company's portfolio into over 100 developments across major VisMin cities, transforming it into one of the region's leading property developers. A graduate of Ateneo de Manila University, he also holds a Master of Science in Real Estate Development from Columbia University and completed the Advanced Management Program at IESC Business School in Barcelona. Very impressive profile, sir. Beyond his professional achievements, he is actively involved in community and leadership initiatives and currently serves as the Honorary Consul of Finland in Cebu. Let us all welcome Mr. Jose Franco Soberano.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Wow, what a treat today. So we had one of the best editors in the Philippines with tech. Can you give her a big hand again? A real estate champion. We had one of the best economists in the country and the former president of UANP, Dr. Stan. Can you give a big hand again? And we had one of the best researchers that I personally look up to, also always refer to his work. So thanks to Joey. Big hand again. So I asked myself, what am I? I'm one of you, my fellow Cebuanos. So today, I'd like to do a little kwentuhan, no? I cannot do full Bisaya because we have some viewers, might have some viewers in Manila. But I'm here to give you confidence. I'm here to give you assurance. I'm here to really share how CLI will navigate this, just as how we've taken advantage of many opportunities in the years prior. So I'm just very happy to say, I see the audience we have today, and all of you are familiar with us. But we're going to reach a special milestone this year. From when Chairman Joe started here, the famous story of him selling the houses himself, distributing the soft drinks and the siopaw himself with house number 1, and we're going to enter our house number 50,000 this year. 50,000. The beauty of it is, I'm still 40 years old, so if he was able to do 50,000, so the sky is the limit. And we saw the economic indicators, the demographic sweet spot we're in. We're the envy actually of many countries around the world. And I do believe in the strength of our people. It's within our hands, no? Us real estate professionals, real estate investors have to take care of each other. Because the fundamentals are there, it's us doing the work. Taking care of the clients, taking care of contractors, suppliers, and each other, no, is the key. So I'd like to say that one thing remains constant. Just a quick walk no? So in 2003 to 15, what was the worst crisis that happened here was subprime. Because foreign inflows slowed down because they were being conservative abroad. And yet, in 2008, 2009, I remember the interest rate back then, because that's when I joined CLI. The interest rate back then for a project real estate loan was 10 to 11%. You know what? We've never gone back to that level ever since. No? So, as you went here, we had a period of growth, but some political challenges. And then you had the COVID pandemic, the hyperinflation, and I'll talk more about that later. But you know what happened, right? In spite of all of this, the numbers do not lie. CLI added inventory, CLI added new markets, and I'll tell you how we were able to do it. So it's real estate investment. Is real estate a smart investment in uncertain times? So let's see. What happened in 2020? The world stopped. Countless community quarantines. Where were you then? No? It was more uncertain. So when people ask me how I feel today versus how I felt 2020, I feel just fine right now. Now I'm able to see my projects. I travel freely. I'm hiring more people because I need it. So this was, for me, more uncertain. And what happened to CLI here? We took care of our brokers. I think we were one of the first to release checks and reopen our offices. I think you're nodding. Do you agree? Let the people in Manila hear it. Yes? Yes, okay. So by supporting our brokers, we made sure they continued their livelihood. Everybody was selling online. And in 2020 to 21, we actually grew sales versus 2019. Diba? And what happened then was CLI didn't stop construction because how will people invest with us if we stop? So the buyers saw CLI continue construction. The noise that happened around Cebu was mostly from CLI projects that didn't stop. But what did we do during that time? We actually gave allowances to construction workers during that time. So the key to a successful business is a good heart during crisis. So we grew. This one, for me, was challenging. In 2022, at the outbreak of the Ukraine-Russia war, a lot of raw materials for steel were coming from this region. So would you know that steel and cement costs actually rose by 40%? So imagine our projects were ongoing, but what did CLI do? Hello. What did CLI do? We never stopped. So, and what we said to ourselves was, let's protect the existing prices of our buyers, let's deliver on time, and we had to absorb these costs. But being a big developer, we're able to get the best pricing from our suppliers. So it's a two-way street, no? The suppliers take care of us, we have to take care of them. Those suppliers who took very good care of us are still our major suppliers today. So we continue to grow. Because we were at project number 90 here, we're now at, it became 110 here, then we're at project 130 here. So, so given that, no, the world's top prices increased 40%. So where are we here now? You know, materials have just risen by 10 to 15%. Is the world stopping now? Are prices at 40% higher? No. So I would say that, of course, it's still uncertain. It can be uneasy, but I just answered this in an interview recently, but the most certain thing I see is we're still better off than these two previous crises. And everything is moving as scheduled for Cebu Landmasters as we speak. So the goal of CLI, I see my boss there at the back. His instructions, we continue to push forward. Properties are always resilient investments. No? So this is an actual picture in our Bohol project. So it's a beautiful resort property. My only problem is I have no more inventory. Sold out na eh. So anyway, after Velmiro Greens Bohol, we're launching another condo there in Panglao. This is very important. This is our source of strength or source of confidence. We are cautiously optimistic, but we listen to the market. One of the most important indicators for developers is this delinquency rate. Only 2.6% of our buyers were not able to proceed. What do you think? Is that a very good indicator or not? It's very good. During the pandemic, do you know how much this was? This went up, for CLI, this went up to 8 to 10%. The industry, this was up to 20%. After 7 weeks of this current crisis, we're still at 2.6%. So what does that tell me? What does that tell Mr. Joe, our chairman? He tells me, launch more projects, of course. If the cancellation rate is only 3.85%, as you know, when people cancel, they might have bought at the original pre-selling price. So when they cancel, we're able to resell at the current price. And usually cancellations are due to due to circumstances that are very personal to that buyer, whether he had to relocate or other priorities. But we'd like to give our units to, as you said, the end user, those who really need the homes, those who have really a plan, long-term plan for their homes. And when we say of the 3.85% that cancel units of CLI, we're able to resell 97% of it. So I see a lot of familiar faces here. Some of you sellers are also my unit owners that I'm very proud of it. But you are what I call end user. I think you have units that you keep as long-term investments. This is your hard-earned investments that you're going to pass on to your family members, children, and this is the market we embrace now, because this is the market that's really going to fight hard to not just keep the investment, but fight hard to grow the investment. So this is the market of CLI, the end-user focused market. Okay, another nice picture. Who's familiar? Mivesa. Yeah, you remember the meaning of Mivesa, no? Middle of Veterans and Salinas Drive. so, wow, no? But Mivela, you don't know what the meaning of Mivela is? Middle of Veterans and Lahog Apas, I think. Sorry, just for those familiar. But this is also a very important project. Why? So this was launched in 2013. Then we expanded to other phases, and it fully completed 2018. Do you remember the original selling price per square of Mevesa? I just wanted to ask. I remember, it's 65,000 per square meter. I remember we sold condominium units here at only 1.2 to 1.3 million, right? So I'm always very proud of the example, because 12 years after, this is probably doing 120 to 130. You've already doubled your investment over how many crises and uncertainty, right? So the certainty there was real estate will appreciate. With a good developer, a good location, I'll add a well-managed property. So as you know, CLI is still the property management of all projects that CLI has developed. Okay, the VisMin advantage. So this is another project in Davao, our first project in Davao, Mesa Tierra Garden Residences. And you saw in the slide of Joey, the sell-out rate in Davao is quite high. This is a very, very strong and resilient market, the Davao market. So we have 23 years of operation. We're now 132 projects, 18 cities. Then we add 19 and 20, Metro Manila and Pasig. So basically we're in 20 different locations. This is what keeps us excited and busy. We have a lot of projects we're completing, turning over, like Bohol, Velmiro, Mivela. The clubhouse will open, I think, May 1. That's a 3-story clubhouse. Boss Joe asked me, why is it 3-story? Bakit naging 3? Because he told me to make it nice. No? So the 2-story clubhouse became 3 stories. Then Casamira Towers, Mandaue is another beautiful example of how we saw why that Umapad area, Pacific Mall area has no condos. But actually it's very close to where people work, a lot of good schools, a lot of access also to Lapu-Lapu. So that's still, I think, the only condominium standing in the area, no? 4 towers, well above 90% sold. So our very popular Casamira Iloilo, we've turned over more than 80% of this. We still have 20% left, but it's fully sold. So Casamira Towers Guadalupe, we're turning over Tower 3 very soon. Then, of course, our very popular Costamira Beach Town Mactan. You see how beautiful it is. Of course, those who invested 4 years ago are rewarded now, and yet our newly launched projects are still at a good value for money. Still more value for money than the Punta Inganyo offerings. Of course, I'd like to say that, as Stan has mentioned, part of keeping this economy going is we need infrastructure push. But I'd like to tell you that Cebu Landmasters is part of the private, I would say, the private push, no? VisMin is really supported by the private sector as well. And companies like CLI are also contributing. Buildings also contribute to infrastructure upgrades. Like even the Patria de Cebu, that has already a lot of new drainage systems all around the cathedral and around downtown thanks to CLI. And in Cagayan de Oro, we're creating even one of the newest linkages that will link downtown to uptown. So Cebu Landmasters building 120 million plus road out of our own pockets to help Cagayan. And it, of course, goes through our township. So this was launched earlier this year. Okay, so part of one of the learnings of this current crisis is energy dependence or independence. So as you know, I talked to our friends who are also power producers, and the investments into sustainable technology and energy are helping now during the crisis. For example, CLI has participated in availing of retail electricity supply. So when we buy energy, we buy directly, no, from the retail market. And part of that supply is actually green supply from solar supply, geothermal, or hydro. So that has helped actually the country weather the energy crisis because we're not fully dependent on coal. We have a lot of other sources of energy here. And yet, in our developments, we want to make sure our homeowners are more energy independent. No? So we've started to launch economic housing with their own solar as part of the consideration. And we're now doing this in Gensan. We'll do it in Ormoc next, Cavite, and beyond. So you can see here that in 2025, we sold 24.6 billion of real estate in 2025. The challenge I have here is the goal of CLI is not to just meet that for this year. We're planning to sell more than this for this year. And in spite of the crisis, where really all systems go is how we want to relay this to our market. And across the 40 5,000 units we've already launched and completed. It's already 91% sold, including what we already completed. Sorry. Okay. So of course, part of navigating different crises, it's innovating for the future. I remember during the pandemic, we launched projects like Mantra, East Village in Davao, and many of those projects incorporated healthy designs, no? Big open spaces, a lot of natural airflow circulation. It upgraded the way we do it. So this current crisis is also challenging me, no, as a head of a real estate company. What else do I need to do? So that investment into how to make our projects more energy independent, no, how can we make it more affordable to maintain our properties over the long term is how we're looking at it. So that it's not heavy on your dues, electricity bills, water bills. So we're looking at all those innovations. So of course, you know our estates and townships. The DGT is one of the best developments that CLI has done. And it's still, we look back at, parang we're still in awe of how we were able to pull that off. Parang how we were chosen over the other larger developers. No, but it's now one of the highest, it now commands one of the highest property values in Davao. More than 200,000 per square is the value of a property in DGT. The condominiums there are fully sold. Whatever we launch there is a favorite of the market. Our job is to deliver on the construction. Of course, Manresa Town is another very popular and emerging township that CLI is developing. We're now in the middle of land development, and the first condominium development there is also at a fully sold level. See, and then in the last 7 weeks, are there cancellations? None, no? Or if there are the few ones, there is a wait list. The question siguro, no, I'm asked a lot in Manila. Like, what's different? No, what do you think? No, so I will tell you a very simple observation. You saw at Joey's slides. Now, how many condominiums does VisMin launch in a year? You saw it? Cebu, 6,000 to 7,000 only. In Manila, isang project lang yan. Right? That's the whole province of Cebu, 6,000 to 7,000 only. You saw in Davao, right? 4,000 to 5,000 only a year. It's so small. No, but that's where CLI's foresight and commitment comes in. We believe in the market, so we will bring the inventory to the market because buyers are waiting. Banks are also waiting to support as well. So Pristina Town, Cebu, how many projects are there in the Talamban area offering township? That's the only one as well. So that's probably the insight of Cebuano developing all over VisMin. We're really not just in a demographic sweet spot. We're also in what I call a supply and demand sweet spot. There is not enough supply, but the demand is there. You agree? Oh, sige. Thank you. So DGT is the very popular destination now. We have the East Village that you see there. You have the Central Park that's very, very popular. This is fully leased out retail. We've already had major lot sales here with investors, and we launched the East Village here. Don't worry, no? Sorry, I have to apologize to my Cebuanos. Why did we launch our first township in Davao, Cagayan, and not in Cebu? It always bothers me. No, but I'm gonna get to that, no? Na I have a surprise. But this is where I think I talked about the heart, right? So even today, I share this. We are also supporting our employees. Now, just as we're ready to support our partner brokers, contractors, suppliers, we are even giving fuel allowances to our employees during this time. All 1,500 of them, regardless of level. Because crisis, of course, it gives parang cloud over your head, but you have to, or there's a thunderstorm, no? But there is always sunshine after the rain. And during those cloudy days, this is where the well-meaning companies and developers have to step up, no? So that they will always be ready to see the sunshine, no? After that rain. So we have to be in a supportive environment. Even in the calamities, we were the first to volunteer equipment, relief goods. Even if we did not have projects in these areas, we deployed our equipment. Okay, this is my surprise pala. So don't worry, guys. We don't have a township yet in Cebu, but thanks to Boss Joe and of course our team, we finally have our Liloan Cebu Township, 79 hectares, right? And just this is a preview of it. This is a little sneak peek of how we're trying to create the most sustainable, resilient township in the whole Cebu, centered on a very positive people experience, no, people-centered. You can even see a big park there with a big chapel in the middle, surrounded by different economic, affordable, middle market offerings, no? 79 hectares. So what it says here that expanding where demand is real and new and core markets. We're not dapat ganito pala ang story. We're expanding in Metro Manila, as we've announced many times. And it's one of the rare, occasions where the Cebuanos are now going north. But we want to make you proud. Other Cebuanos have done it, but we're so excited to bring our brand of development there. Did our plans change or shift due to this current crisis? No. In fact, Boss Joe reminded me to hurry up on my schedule. So we're doing a mixed-use development with our Japanese partner, NTTUD. We did the Wave Towers together. Do you know that the Wave was already 40% sold? 6 months pa lang tayo. Thank you to the brokers who've been supporting it. After this was the new news that we just announced this week. CLI was able to acquire a 70-hectare site in Dasmariñas, Cavite. A beautiful site just near all the highways and tollways. So we're very excited about that. But we said, don't worry, we're not leaving VisMin. In fact, we're expanding. The Liloan Township is underway. So this is in Cavite. It's surrounded by a lot of already populated communities, but this was the remaining big piece of land there that the company was able to find. So we'll share more information about that in the coming weeks. That we do our best to build beautiful communities where your investments are able to not just ride out different crises, but they are able to triumph and win during these times. And of course, that we build with you in mind. We came up with that in 2016. Even as we've grown, this is something we hold dear always in everything we do in the planning, construction, and delivery. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening. I'm excited for your questions. So just a few points is, for us Cebuanos, you saw there we have the highest growth rate in the whole country. I always explain, it's the Cebuanos, no? It's the people, because we use the word tinabangay. We really help each other out here. And that supportive ecosystem is really key to us overcoming different disruptions or external factors. So I'm really honored and privileged to be working with a lot of great Cebuanos to bring our industry up and forward. So thank you to Inquirer Property. Thank you again. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Sir Franco. We're very excited about the expansion, and Sir Franco yung Dasmariñas, ha? Hi, Sir Joe. I'm from Cavite. Okay, so yeah, I agree with Sir Franco na it's very clear about the mission of or the objective of the building a property. No, it's not just about buildings, about creating, but it's about creating communities that can stand the test of time and balancing, of course, both investment value and long-term impact. So before we continue, we'll take a 20-minute break. so you can stretch your legs and prepare for your questions for our Q&A later. And you may submit them now at the registration area. And we also would like to remind everyone that food served at the lounge or cocktail area is not allowed to inside the function hall or here. So guests are encouraged to finish their meals before entering the function hall. So thank you very much. See you in 20 minutes. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to INQTalks, a discussion with the experts brought to you by Cebu Landmasters in partnership with Inquirer Property. I hope you enjoyed the food served by, or prepared for us by Cebu Landmasters. Thank you again, Cebu Landmasters. And for those who are still outside, we encourage you to join us here for the much-awaited session, which is the panel discussion. So we've now heard three distinct yet interconnected perspectives from the economic landscape to emerging regional opportunities, and finally to how developments can be future-ready and community-driven. To synthesize these insights and explore them further, we now move to the panel discussion. To guide this conversation, we have with us a respected voice in the real estate media industry. She is the property section editor of the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the assistant vice president for special projects. She has been with the Inquirer since 2000 and has led the project property section in delivering insightful and relevant content for readers and industry stakeholders alike. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Ms. Tex Samaniego. May we now invite all our speakers to please join us on stage. Dr. Paduhinog, Joey Bondo, and Sir Franco Soberano. Ms. Tex, the stage is yours.
So, good afternoon again, everyone. As I would always say in most of our forums, we now come to the most exciting part, the Q&A part. So, for all of you here present, I would highly encourage you to ask the questions now, because rarely would you see three highly respected sources from the real estate industry come together. So now is the best opportunity to ask your questions. But before I give you the mic, I would like to throw in the first question. I like the way he presented real estate because it gives me actually a different perspective. While I would always consult with Joey and other property analysts, it's the first time that I actually had a chance to listen to Doc Paduhinog. And I like his insights, the way he presented the real estate landscape. So Doc, just to give it a more in-depth take, I would like to ask, which economic indicators for our sellers and brokers here today, when they do their selling, which economic indicators should they advise their buyers to watch to better understand the strength of real estate?
Well, economic indicators that buyers should look into when they purchase real estate. No? So, of course, we have to look into who the buyer is. If the buyer is for housing, a different set of indicators for those who will invest in retail, those who will invest in industrial. No? But I think we are pertaining to housing, I suppose. No? For the buyers of housing, there are three important, I think, indicators that they have to look at. And especially also for brokers to assess. No? First and foremost, you have to see, of course, their capacity to pay, their affordability, their sources of income. That's very important for the buyer. No? Because from there, you will be able to decide and design a program really suited for their level of economic status. That's one. So you have to look at that. So that means, in terms of macro indicator, you have to see where they work, what sectors they are in. For example, if they are definitely in the BPO sector, they have more purchasing power, let's say, compared to someone working in, let's say, in the retail market, right? So you have to adjust. No? So the income and then the employment, the industry where they come from. Second, another important for me indicator that they should look at is that since they're putting their money there, is the quality of the property they're putting their investment in, or their homes. Because not all property developers do preserve value. You have to see, in many respects, how that value is being preserved in terms of property management, for example, in terms of the accessibility and location of that development, in terms of the design, especially geotechnical, no? In the future. You have to also look at that. So one of the factors you have to look at is the developer and, of course, the surrounding area where they're in, because there are geotechnical factors that you have to consider. Last but not the least, which is very important, is the financial markets, the interest rates especially. We are very, very lucky that we have a very strong and very good BSP, Bangko Sentral Pilipinas, which has always been winning a lot of awards in terms of managing our banking sector. No? The stability of our property markets, to a large extent, is attached to the stability of the banking sector. If there is usually a property crisis, it translates to a financial crisis, then there is a meltdown of the property. But if you have a very strong banking sector, no matter how, let's say, adverse the situation is for property, as long as your banking sector is very strong, the buyer will also have to be, will be very calm or at peace of the property that they purchase. So in other words, you have to also look at the stability of the financial system. But by far, with all of these indicators I have given, I think these are factors that you can easily monitor in your own. And looking at the external environment, we are not yet there, no? Or I don't think we are near there, no? Where unemployment will significantly increase, where geotechnical or the property management may not be at par with it. There are many developers who are very responsible. And thirdly, the financial sector. No? Because lending and interest rates are very important stabilizers for the housing sector. If something happens to the banking sector, you study it. If you look at the crisis that happened in Japan, it hit the banking sector, hit the property market. The same thing in the Asian financial crisis. Remember that there were many developer friends who were affected. So when the financial crisis hit, the banks were hit, then the property developers were hit. So the financial sector, you have to also watch very carefully. But I'm trying to say that we are still very stable, no? As far as those fundamentals are concerned. So those three things I would like to, for our brokers to consider. Thank you.
I think we're still in a very good position considering that it's a growing population and the age is just right. Also, I think my advice for the brokers, if the buyers are doing their due diligence, you as brokers must also be able to do that. Check their capacity, check the developers that you're partnering with, make sure na hindi tayo mapapahiya with our clients. And lastly, keep yourself abreast or attuned with the latest developments, especially when it comes to interest rates, because that's how you'll be able to convince your buyers. Okay? And then just a follow-up, Joey, I'd like to ask, given the strong showing of VisMin, what you showed a while ago, how can potential investors maximize yung returns of their investment in VisMin?
I think what we always say at Colliers is that you need to look for projects within master plan communities. And I think this is aligned with the thrust of CLI, especially with their proposed project in Liloan. You see a lot of master plan communities, and we believe that there's a huge upside potential for price appreciation. In fact, not just price appreciation, but even for rental prospects. Because if you're within a master plan community, eventually you'll be able to lease out your condo, you'll be able to resell your house and lot project. And again, what we're seeing right now is that developers are aggressively differentiating. Gone are the days when you talk about master plan, all you have is an office tower, a condo, and a small retail strip. That's it. No, now you see massive townships being completed. Say your project in Cavite is 70 hectares, but what do you have? You have perhaps for other developers, you have a condo, you have house and lot, you have lot-only developments, you have golf course within that master plan community, you have clinics, hospitals, schools, greener, more open spaces, active lifestyle amenities, jogging paths. So I think right now, if you were to ask me, Tech, one key consideration for an investor to see his investment eventually rising in terms of price, well, invest in a property within a master plan community.
I think it's been said time and again that when you buy, you must ensure that you buy in a master planned estate. Pero I agree with Joey, it has evolved a lot. From the live, work, play, there's live, work, play, learn, there's live, work, play, leisure, learn. So it has evolved. So you have to be able to see for yourselves who among these players are able to future-proof their communities. And I guess one example would be how CLI managed to pivot right away from offering a single development to future-proofing and creating estates or townships that continues to earn, continues to appreciate and give value to their residents. So, Franco, can you walk us through how you really actually future-proof your communities?
When you ask Joey what to invest, what I heard was master. Cebu Landmasters or master plan? Cebu Land, just kidding. No, I mean, we are coming from very humble beginnings, so we've had some broker supporters here and unit owners who have seen us from our humble beginnings selling houses 2 hours away from here, and we're always very appreciative of the trust given. I even remember the very first lot I bought, of course, was a lot of Cebu Landmasters in 2007. It was in Minglanilla. It's 45 minutes from here. I was working pa in Manila, but I will never forget the price I paid. I think it's 100 square meter lot, 4,000 pesos per square. Then I think it's worth close to 20,000 now. So our really thinking is we want our investors, homeowners to win. Meaning that we did not do a good job if the value of their investment did not grow. But as many brokers can attest, I would like to say that those who have invested in a property CLI, the price has appreciated well. Whether they hold it for the long term or able to resell it, they have benefited. Their families have benefited from it. And how is that possible? No? So it goes back to a very fundamental criteria of location and value for money. Simple lang, no? So this property is called Astra Center, using this property. We bought this property in 2018, launched it in 2019. So in the last 7 years, the value of a condo here, parang I regret because I did not buy here. So we sold this at only 100,000 per square meter. You all know it's worth 170,000, 180,000 now. So what then it's not just location, masterfully planned. So this is actually a investment within a master planned mixed-use development. You have our international hotel, you have a mall, you have a supermarket, you have office, and you have very good compliance with environmental codes, building codes, technology. So So I think it goes back there. No, it's very hard to explain, but it goes back into the fundamental location, value for money, and the developer that has a good heart for these criteria.
Sorry, I just want to add, no, but I can attest to that. Technically, I'm an outsider. I don't even live in Cebu. But the first time I met the chairman, Mr. Joe Soberano, in way back 2017, I could immediately sense and feel that he has the heart for it. So, in those 10 years, close to a decade, we really watched his story. And I would say that it's one of my favorite success story here in Cebu. So you should all be proud that you have one landmaster who's willing to do everything. And now he's bringing that expertise to Luzon. And we're all very excited about it. Now, I'd like to ask Doc Winston. Doc, is there such a thing as clear indicators? We mentioned there are a number of uncertainties, a number of issues concerning our country. But is there really a a foolproof formula for an investment in real estate to work?
Well, you have to go back to the most basic questions. Who are the major purchasers of property? Human beings. No? There are no other entity that will purchase that. So what is important is that you have to see the quality of that population that we're looking at and where they are moving. Usually, this movement is dictated, of course, by so many factors like infrastructure. So you have to see and follow how the infrastructure are also being laid out. So the most critical factor here is your human capital, where they are, their quality, the migration patterns, their purchasing power, their sources of income. That's the one that we watch very carefully because in the end, they're the ones who ultimately buy and create those value. The value is there simply because there's the demand and that demand is created by human beings. So population. Population is a foolproof way of looking at it. So you want to see countries that are depopulating. So you could see also what's happening to those countries. They're going here to the Philippines and partner with Filipino companies in order to run after where the population is. So you're thinking of Japan, especially they're very much present here in the Philippines. Other countries like Koreans, they also like to invest here in the Philippines because it's where the population is. It's growing, it's young, it's dynamic, and it's also productive. So that's the foolproof one. So we watch the dynamics of the population, demographics. We call them demographics. Thank you.
I'm helping. I have 4 children. So double the target of Doc Stan. No? So guys, come on, let's produce more. But it's really a challenge. Our generation only two on average, 1 to 2 now.
But that's really one of the growth drivers, key growth drivers. If you look at Japan, di ba, Doc? Talagang medyo pababa yung population. It's declining. So let's listen to the plea of Dr. Winston. Let's produce more and give birth to more babies. Now, Joey,
I wanted to say, thank you, start.
Parang mahirap yun. Parang mahirap pag kami. But I'd like to ask Joey, VisMin has been a favorite even by national developers. They're flocking here in Cebu. So I'd like to ask, what makes Cebu a certain location during these uncertain times?
Okay, let me discuss this per segment, Tech. As you saw my presentation, in the office sector, Cebu definitely stands out. When locators, our BPO clients, for example, when they look for a site where they can expand outside of Metro Manila, Cebu is definitely one of those. You saw my presentation earlier, 121,000 square meters in demand in 2025. Cebu is already okay with 100,000. But 121,000 square meters means a lot of BPO companies are in fact expanding here. And I'm talking about the big ones, Concentrix, Asurion, Accenture, EY, Ernst & Young. And one example is EY. EY is a shared service company. In fact, they churn out reports, do financial advisory services globally. But they are headquartered where? Cebu. So that only indicates that Cebu really has the manpower. You have the office buildings to house all these employees. That's why the vacancy in Cebu, I would say, is quite competitive at about 17%. Do you know that in Iloilo, the vacancy is more than 30%? In Clark, it's more than 20%, north of 20%. So I would say that when you compare Cebu, brick by brick, versus these other key hubs, it definitely stands out. In terms of office space absorption, in the residential market, again, you saw my slide earlier, even if Cebu has the biggest condominium stock outside of Metro Manila, the condo supply, the stock is about 90% sold. And that is strong because I'll give you another figure. In Metro Manila, and Dr. Winston, we were discussing, how long will it take for the Metro Manila market to fully absorb the unsold condos? This is a favorite indicator of tech. Sometimes she hates me for saying the right figure. But in Metro Manila, it will take 7.9 years to fully sell the unsold condos. In Cebu, have idea? Any guess? 3 years. So that only means that for the condo sector, Cebu is definitely a good location. Sorry, developers, including CLI, continue to launch projects because it's a much better indicator. It's actually the same, whether it's horizontal, house and lot only. They're more than 90% sold. Again, if there's one key indicator that we saw being highlighted at the height of the pandemic, it's the greater demand for more open spaces, greener spaces, all these premium amenities. That's why Cebu, again, continues to perform well, even for the horizontal segment. I'm talking about house and lot only developments.
I agree with Joey. There are certain areas in Manila, I always tell them, we have to qualify and quantify which particular areas because I think with CLI coming in Pasig and Cavite and bringing in the right offer, because sometimes that's the problem, there's a mismatch in the market. But I think since you already have a mastery of what to actually deliver to the market, it's going to be a walk in the park in Manila. So we're really excited of having you there in Luzon. Okay. Now, Franco, this leads me to my next question. What do you think allowed CLI to be this resilient? You showed us one page there wherein you continue to grow, you continue to build, you continue to deliver. What encouraged you to push through despite the challenges?
Very, very good question, no? And I'd like to share this. Actually, if you really look at the founders and leaders of CLI, I'm not sure if you know, we're all finance and accounting people, no? Boss Joe was a banker. My mother, Maros, was a summa cum laude in accounting. I'm a management graduate. So one of the best lessons, actually, and I sometimes forget to emphasize it, CLI has very disciplined financial management. No, because in crisis, you really have to understand what's the money coming in and what's the money coming out. And I can tell you, see, our management is very, very disciplined at it, such that, wow, a lot of money is coming in thanks to the brokers, buyers. So, so we're able to manage our projects very well. Even with the banks, they're very supportive because they see the financial discipline of CLI. So that is really one of the key secrets of CLI. And why do we launch more? Because the financial situation is very sound and very strong. But you now look at the leadership of CLI, we're actually very good nerds. Mga nerds kami. Nerds. And then, can I tell you one more secret? We have a very strong board. Now, CLI is a publicly listed company. We actually have 5 independent directors. And you know who is our newest one? Dr. Stan Padohino. So in our board, we're also challenged by the independent directors, how well they're asking us how well we're managing our company. And of course, I have all the economic data from Dr. Stan. So thank you so much. But that's really one of the key secrets. And you see a lot of developers, why did they slow down even if magandang company? No, how well are they managing the financial?
So that's, I think, one very important thing that we have to keep in mind. Kasi for developers, they always say it's important if they have the financial muscle. But in this case, I now realize more than the financial muscle, it's the financial discipline. Okay? So now, we have some questions from our audience, but later on, if meron po at nahiya lang magsulat, we will open the floor. So I guess this one goes for Doc Winston. Doc, what makes real estate less risky compared to other investments in these uncertain times?
Well, at least it's a nice question, less risky. Meaning it's still risky, no? Only that, as I have said earlier, when you have in possession an asset, you already create scarcity. And that particular asset is not anymore there in the market, no? Because you have it. So imagine multiply that several times. No? So that scarcity, the value is built on scarcity. So for example, when you bought this property, the land was not yet fully developed, the neighboring lands are not fully developed. Then later, other developers will come in, different kinds of different kind of projects will come in. Then that particular scarcity even becomes more acute, meaning I like to be near to this property, I like to be near to my place of work, I have to be near in school, I have to be near. So now there are other variables that start coming in. Because of this property, I will be able to save myself from traveling very far. With this property, I will be able to rest and not get caught in traffic. No? This property, I'm very near the hospital, the school where my children go. So there are contributing values into it. That's the one that drives the property. So when there is a particular need built around housing or built around a unit, that's what drives the value. It's not just the demand for that property, but whatever economic activities that are generated by that property directly and indirectly. So you know that when you have seen that how it gets developed here in Cebu, and as more and more developments come out, the original properties, the peripheral, they start also appreciating. So that makes it less risky. Less risky than the other assets. Financial assets, I had a humbling experience in financial assets, although it's also very good. No? I remember way back in 2008, during the global financial meltdown, no? The money that you have there can vanish. No? It's in the books, then suddenly it's gone. The bond value will just be gone. They don't have confidence in the bond, they will not buy the bonds. And if there's no buying of the bonds, the bond value loses its value because there's no demand. It evaporates. I remember that very well. You read about it. That's why the financial system should be very stable. Like property, it's a tangible asset. It's there. It's physical. And you will always have it with you there. Unlike financial instruments, although they are very liquid. No? Financial instruments, the property is less risky. So I hope I was able to explain it very clearly.
I agree with Dong Ano. It's a tangible asset, something that you can actually see, you can live in, and it's something that will continue to appreciate in value. And also, let's not forget the fact that with real estate, you're the one who's actually managing and handling it. So it's really up to you whether or not it will lose value in the future, unlike with the other forms of investment. Now, Franco.
I was gonna interrupt, parang for comedy sake lang. Do you know one of the first, reactions of Cebuanos during when oil prices went up? You know there's a wait list already for electric cars. Daming pera ng Cebuano. But is that an asset that appreciates or depreciates? So I'm just challenging Inquirer Property versus Inquirer Auto. Motoring, no?
Oh,
But let's put you guys together also.
Inquirer Property is the most resilient. Well, thank God, it's one of the most resilient
The most
sections
profitable segment of Inquirer.
of Inquirer. So it goes to show that real estate will always be certain in our lives. Okay? Now, Frank, this one is for Joey. Joey, how can my property investment protect wealth during inflation? You've seen a number of,
Yes.
challenges.
We always say this, Tech. Property is a very good hedge against inflation. You know this. I always write about this in my Inquirer Property columns. But you saw my slide earlier. The pace of price acceleration of properties, whether it's condominium, house and lot only, in fact, even faster than the current inflation. So we hope that we maintain and see that pace of price acceleration. Of course, we can't deny the fact that property is highly cyclical. It's somehow reflective of how the Philippine economy performs. There are ups, there are downs, but overall, even if we saw COVID-19 pandemic, Asian financial crisis, global financial crisis, even the oil embargoes of the previous decades, property remains resilient. As Dr. Winston mentioned, there's something that you can actually see and feel compared to the Philippine Stock Exchange Index shares, for example. And I think there will be greater price appreciation, especially for newly launched projects, and there's a stable or even growing demand. And you've seen similar projects, Tech. That's why, again, I was speaking to a lot of the accredited brokers earlier, and I think it's a good move to really and aggressively look at these new projects launched by Cebu Landmasters. Just imagine the price appreciation potential for these projects once they are launched and once they are completely completed and are ready to move in, ready for occupancy, condos or house and lot projects.
Also, no, just to add, not all projects are created equal. That's why when you try to sell, make sure your name is also attached to a reputable developer so that you can easily claim that property is a good hedge against inflation. Kasi ang hirap na sasabihin nyo, it's a hedge against inflation. Tapos the following day, hindi nakadeliver si developer. Babalikan kayo nung bumili sa inyo. Now, I'd like to ask this one for Franco. For property investors, especially first-time investor, what are the parameters that CLI is considering every time it develops a property that assures property appreciation and attractiveness?
So goes back to, of course, location. And this is where our homegrown expertise is, because every road, street, corner of Cebu I know by heart. And I would say in the last 15 years, I've also known it by heart in Davao, Cagayan, Bacolod, Iloilo, Bohol. So it's really that, parang that's the advantage of a local developer. We really know the location more. So if when we go Manila, and so since I'm not from there, how do we know it locally? So it's the work, the hard work to really understand, work with the right experts. So location, number one. Number two, look into the design, because is the design parang environmentally friendly, sustainable, disaster resilient, and now energy independent. Parang it might look very nice, but when you look at your electric bill for a studio, wow, 20,000. So check that, because some buildings are designed very well with very good equipment, very good glazing, meaning when I say glazing, the windows, no? So if it's a very low quality window, it will be very hot inside. So you have to use your aircon more, things like that. Third, of course, the amenity offering, because if you're gonna buy to rent out, of course, foreigners would like a very nice pool, or students would like a nice library. So that's it. Then number four, the value for money is really, really important, because that's really what I've been doing, CLI has been doing since the start. So if it's an economic housing project, I have to offer middle market amenities. And if it's a middle market project, I have to offer high-end amenities. And if it's a high-end project, I have to offer the best high-end amenities. So that's the thinking, and of course, it's never perfect, no, because while we still manage 100% of our properties, each property has its unique challenge, or especially I have some properties now that are becoming 20 years old, 15 years old. So I have properties with more, let's say, foreigners than locals. So we have to do our best to satisfy all the expectations, and it's going to be a partnership with our homeowners all the time. That's how we see it, and that's the fifth one is the property management. Sorry, because even if you have nice location, nice design, nice amenities, nice pricing, what if it's poorly managed? What if nag-away ang condo corp dyan? If they're fighting, it's the biggest problem or headache. So you'd like a developer that at least has the patience and the heart, because kami, even if we will have difficult homeowners, will never abandon them. No? We will take good care of them, always, always.
So you see, you have in front of you a very honest developer. For him to actually acknowledge that not all developments are perfect, that time and again they will have to continue to learn from previous mistakes and to still be on top of every property even after 20 years.
Yeah, I think I'm on more than 15 condo corp boards, but I'm starting to give it to my siblings already. Di ko na kaya.
So before we ask our last question, I'd like to actually open the floor. Siguro we can accommodate just 2 more questions from the audience. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. We can accommodate 3 before we wrap up. So, ma'am.
Hello. Hello, this goes to the 3, 4 pala. So I think we just want to hear it from you. What are your financial strategies, especially now that the interest rates are unpredictable? So I think helpful siya for us because most of us here are also investors, with CLI as well.
From the economist. Then I'll just copy my answer.
Okay, in a period of uncertainty, nothing really beats liquidity. You have to make sure that you have the liquidity, meaning the cash. So you have to make sure that your inflows is much greater than your outflows. And then second, you really have to review again your operations. Household operations, for example. You may have to see what are the expenses that are not necessary, which you have to cut. What are some of the, let's say, behavior or the consumption behavior that you need to review and go to the essentials. So that's another very important thing, liquidity, and then your review of your expenses. And thirdly, very important, which is disposition, optimism. You have to be optimistic. Life is too short to be so pessimistic. If you are very hopeful, I'm almost sure that you will have the energy and the cheerfulness to face that difficulty and look for opportunities. Because if you sulk and then you just complain about the difficulty, then you will never be able to see the sun behind the clouds, as they say. So those are the things that I would like to share with you. Liquidity, review your behavior, and of course, optimism. Don't lose hope. Life is too short to be sad these days. Thank you.
Sarap mag-ano ngayon parang kwentuhan. The joke lang. My advice, there are some bankers here actually, and some of our partner banks who offer home loans. So when it comes to interest rates, actually they're still very stable. No, for home loans, you can still get it at 6% to 6.5% for a 3 to 5 year fixed term. No, so that's very, very advantageous because I remember the loan I got for my own home back in 2021. It was also 6. It was more. It was 7%. So it's actually lower now. No, but also for the business loans, it's holding steady. No, so that shows as Stan said, our Banco Central is one of the best in Asia because of the discipline. But I would say, as Stan said, while you are confident or cautiously optimistic, take advantage of opportunities. No, I believe there are great bargains. If CLI says there's a special promo here or there, take advantage, because if it's 100,000 peso discount or 50,000 peso discount, you're already ahead, meaning you've saved 100,000 that you're supposed to spend elsewhere. Now, so think of it that way. That the savings are available, opportunities available. Of course, you have your different priorities. So you have your essentials, your current commitments. But if you do have extra, you do have, I would say, investable funds, then take advantage of available opportunities. And don't forget, you've seen the cycles that I've went through. And I think it's just being strong, having a positive attitude, and seeing through, because there are still opportunities that are available.
Prof. Winston said liquidity. Franco said affordability. I'd say diversity. So meaning, there's a really huge need right now to diversify. And I say this whether interest rates are low or high. When you look at Metro Manila right now, as I mentioned, you're seeing challenges. If you buy a premium condo priced at 50 million pesos per unit, you lease it out, how much yield will you be able to get? You'd be best at about what? 2%. But if you buy, say, a lot only, a house and lot in Cavite, or price appreciation would average at about, say, 4 to 6% on an annual basis. In certain projects, the price appreciation is even higher. That's where diversification comes in. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You diversify. You have a condo now. Well, given that the rental market in certain parts of Metro Manila is experiencing challenges, maybe it's about time that you look for other property options. And now I talk about lot only, house and lot projects outside of Metro Manila, including those in South Luzon, such as Cavite.
Okay. I'm not gonna compete with an economist, with a consultant, with a developer. But my take is very simple. I've been in this industry for many years. Though I'm not a developer, I'm not an accountant, I'm an editor. I work with a number of developers. Number one, when it's real estate, don't buy more than what you can chew. So i-explain nyo yon ng malinaw to your buyers. Ask them to create yung simpleng planning lang po, budget planning, and see if this is something that they can truly afford. Second, we always tell our buyers that they should prioritize real estate. So what do? You try to plan. You try to make a list. Encourage them to make a list because number one, buying a property is a lifetime commitment. It's not parang buying a candy and then you don't want it, I'm gonna give it away. Yung property, you give it away to the next generation. Like a Patek campaign, you don't actually own it, you just look after it for the next generation. And then, siguro lastly for me, yung interest rates, malikot yan. No matter how you look at it, there was a point in time when interest rates went up to, I think, 20 to 30%. Now, it's 7%. Siguro yung iba sa inyo hindi pa buhay when it reached the 20 to 30%. So what am I saying? Yesterday is always the best time to buy real estate. Okay? Not today, not tomorrow, but yesterday. Meaning, it will continue to appreciate value and in the end, it will more than compensate for the interest rate. Trust me on that. But for as long as you go for a reputable developer like CLI. Okay? Palakpakan niyo ako, hindi ako accountant.
Good afternoon. My question is for Sir Franco and, of course, to Sir Joey. Sir Franco, you mentioned earlier in your presentation, you've been with the Project 1 and then to Project 50,000. So, of all those, what is your favorite project? And what is your biggest challenge? And how did you solve it? And For, can I ask also Sir Joey? For Sir Joey, I'm really a fan of yours. I've been following you. Yes. Um, my question is, how do you forecast which project development will be, say, for example, the next trend or the next in demand, because it would really help us concentrate on which project and what project to endorse.
Oh, Miss Universe question. No, actually, Melissa is a good friend and a good supporter, but it's hard to say, you know, it's like choosing my favorite child. But I would say in Cebu, probably one of my favorite projects like I think of is when I joined Cebu Landmasters, we were just doing housing. No, so my job was to prove to Boss Joe that I can contribute new ideas or diversify. So probably then I was studying in New York in 2011 and trying to understand what can I learn here that I can bring home. So what I learned in New York was how CLI can prepare itself for the future. As you know, a developer cannot just keep sell, sell, sell. We also need to build what's called recurring income or rent investment properties. And the very first one we built was a case study I did while I was in New York. Now, so that's actually our office building, Park Central. Not the Ayala one, but ours. So that was the first office building I did. At that time, we did not understand how to do it, but I learned it. I studied it. I looked at every possible material online. And it's one of the first full glass buildings that you see here there in IT Park. It's just 20 stories, but it's where good education, good commitment, and can open doors, no? So dun ko na realize na, magaling pala ako. Just kidding. Just kidding. But that's where I realized na. Then from there, I can do many things. We now do mixed use. We do hotels. So I already knew how to do it. It's just really the work ethic to get things done. I'll add another project. So actually, there are many favorite projects. Pero sa Davao, it's Davao Global Township because, wow, never in our dreams did we imagine we would be a township developer because townships are so expensive, no? The Davao Global Township is a more than 10 billion peso investment at that time, and we never had that money before, as you know. But we finished it. It's now the #1 business district in Davao. I believe it rivals the best in Mindanao. It's sustainable. It has helped traffic in that part because I opened 5 roads. It's 6 lanes, everything underground, and have an underground detention tank where we have 3 stories in the basement just to capture rainwater. So it's flood-free. I'm gonna do that in Liloan, don't worry. I'm gonna make something very, very nice there for us, no? Guys, like nice there. That's going to be a showcase. So yun lang. I think I can speak for an hour. Thank you for that question.
No, I think the question is how to predict the next ideal project investment. No, I'll keep this basic. You saw my presentation earlier. You know, if you're an investor, what are your key considerations? What should be your key considerations? Again, of course, location, as Franco, Prof. Winston, we always say this, location, location, location in real estate. Again, being in a master plan community matters a lot these days. Will you be able to lease it out in the future? Say if you're investing a condo, will you be able to lease it out to a Filipino employee or to an expat? So that's a key consideration also. Again, because you're after, for example, if you're a developer, as Franco mentioned, you need to generate recurring income, and that is important for your operations. If you are a buyer, will you be able to lease it out? Therefore, you have passive income in the future. And then, of course, the price appreciation potential. Is that project near an infrastructure project, public project built by the government? I'm going to reference an ADB study, which I think is very familiar with Prof. Winston. there's an ADB study that showed that even before the construction of the MRT3 stations, the speculative prices of those stations increased just before the construction and right after, immediately after those stations were highlighted and identified by the government. So just imagine, once those stations were completed, the properties along the nodes of those MRT3 stations, their prices increased tremendously. This is the same for property. If you have a property near an infra, Metro Manila subway station, near a subway of the North-South Commuter Railway, for example, definitely you have very good price increase as well as rental prospects. So I'll keep it short to those four basic factors.
Can I just add, as a spectator, for Franco, I think from my end, my favorite project of CLI would be Davao Global Township. You wanna ask me why? Okay, it's very simple. The name is Cebu Landmasters. You would think CLI will be contained here in Cebu because by the very name itself. But look how he cemented the name CLI through DGT. He earned the respect of many Davaoeño developers. I know of some, mas marami po kasing active na Davao developers compared to other provinces. So for him to be able to make that mark in Davao, I have to give it to CLI. Then ma'am, you mentioned, you were asking Joey, again, as a spectator and not as an expert or a consultant, for me it's simple. You look at the property developer who can easily pivot and who are willing to correct the previous mistakes that they have done in their previous developments. Because remember, there are seasoned developers who along the way, even after 3 decades, they lose touch of their vision because they're growing at a pace that's too hard for them to handle. So look at the developer who continues to operate with the heart. Because sometimes when you grow, that's the main challenge. You lose touch of the very reason why you build the business. So in the case of CLI, I think I hope and I pray that they will always have the heart to build for the Filipino people. Or as what was the mantra?
We build with you in mind.
We build with
including
you.
you. Please buy a CLI property. Just kidding.
Bacolod. We'll do
yeah.
Bacolod. Okay, so yun po. Think of developers who are quick to pivot, who are humble enough to correct their previous mistakes, and those who continue to be driven by not only by profit, but by heart. Okay? One more question, and then we will close the session. If there's any more questions from the audience. Okay, so no more. To wrap this up, siguro, my last question would be for Doc Paduhinog. We are going through another crisis, or I must say uncertain times, but what makes real estate investment a certain asset or a certain move for any investor? What makes it a good investment during these uncertain times? That goes for Joey and Franco.
Well, definitely, as I have been saying earlier, you have an asset there that will always, not only within your possession, it will always continue to appreciate, regardless of what happens in the future. Before, they call the uncertainties as VUCA, no? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. No? Now it's called Pluto. No? What do I mean by that, Pluto? No? P, it's polarized. No? The world is divided. No? US and Israel, no? Europe is another one. China, Russia, North Korea, they are one. It's polarized. No? And leveraged. No? Meaning there's just too much in the global economy, borrowings. No? And U is unilateral. No? The powerful one is the one that dictates. No? That's unilateral. T is transitory. They cannot really plan so much. No? Because whatever assumption you make will change again in the future because of the uncertainty. And O is omni-relational, meaning whatever one does I say what happens in the Strait of Hormuz also affects the whole world, like Asia in particular. So that's the new environment we're facing. That will always be that kind of environment we should expect in the future. No? VUCA, Pluto, but what do you have now is a certainty that you have an asset, no? That you will be able to not only utilize, but also as a store of value, a value where you can, make sure that you have the possession for your use, and at the same time, capture whatever value it will generate in the future. Because as I've said earlier, I always go to the fact that ownership of property creates scarcity, and everyone creates that kind of scarcity because of the need. You will always have a very, let's say, safer investment compared to other instruments. Property. Personally, I diversify as an economist, I diversify my portfolio, as Joey said. No? So I diversify to one of those instruments in addition to financial instruments. I have real estate as a form of investment. It's not really for me. As Franco said, it's for the next generation. So that's basically it. You diversify, but property is one of the most stable. Why did I go to property? Because I got burned in 2008. Just want to share with you. Wow, before, I have to be very honest with all of you. Sometimes I try to compare real estate with other assets, asset class. Like if I have real estate, I could have placed money somewhere else and earned. So might as well not put there, because I will earn. But if you have fully focused on financial instruments, I have seen the meltdown that it can cause. Stock market went down. Even your insurance during that time was threatened. I remember that. No? You will lose the value of your insurance over time. PhilAm's assets, AIA, took over that. But that's good. But just to share you have to diversify your investment. One of them, the more stable one, because now I can afford to take risks, is because I have a stable value, which is property. So I'm just sharing with you the personal experience. Thank you.
Joey?
I think tech property has seen a lot of cycles. We saw that Asian financial crisis, global financial crisis, of course, COVID-19 pandemic, when the Philippine economy contracted by 9.5%. Then eventually, we saw a V-shaped trajectory or recovery. Real estate is highly cyclical, as I always say, somehow reflective of the Philippine economy's performance. And it goes up, it goes down, but as history has also shown, it is a resilient investment, not as volatile compared to the PSE, Philippine Stock Exchange Index. And what is keeping Philippine property afloat is the developers' ability to evolve. And we see this, major developers, including CLI, of course, have been evolving. Previously focused on VisMin. What do they have now? Metro Manila Investments, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas corridor projects. And given all these prospects that we're seeing, whether it's for Cebu or Bacolod, Iloilo, Davao, including those massive townships launched by Cebu Landmasters, we believe that there are tremendous potential for a lot of property developers and investors, and they should be always active in capturing these opportunities. Again, whether you are a massive developer, including CLI, or an investor planning to acquire your first residential unit. That's why, given all these prospects that we're seeing right now, definitely it's about time that we zoom in on VisMin.
Thank you, Joey. Franco?
Yeah. I'll end on a very nice note. Parang this is sarap para sa tulog natin later, no? You've heard a lot about how real estate is good for you. But please don't forget the very nice statistic of Dr. Stan. Every real estate you buy has a 3 times multiple and helps a lot of others. No? Sorry, this is how I was raised by my family. No? Parang we're in business not just for money. We're in business to help. So don't forget that every real estate investment you invest in is helping 3 times more other Filipino families. right now, you know what I was gonna say is my favorite project, and I just realized it now. We built a condominium for informal settlers, no, in Lorega and in Mandaue. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. And how were we able to do it? Through real estate. We're able to give to those less fortunate. So don't forget, in times of crisis, we're able to take care of ourselves, but if we have more to give, then it's to help others. And don't forget the 3 times real estate multiplier. You're helping, you know, I have a big heart for construction workers. So I have 25 projects under construction, on average 1,000 workers. So I'm helping 25,000 workers times 4, a family of 4. So 100,000 Filipinos I'm helping. You're part of that. So please don't forget, real estate is helping your own families, but other families as well. That's why it's the best investment. So thank you so much.
Okay, for me, just to wrap it up, no, the question is, why real estate is a smart investment even in uncertain times? I don't know how to better phrase it, but for me, okay, we've seen many crises already. Political upheavals, we can, kumbaga, paulit-ulit tayo. Parang innate na nga sa atin yata na laging nasa crisis. But it's as simple as educate the buyers. It's also your duty and your obligation to educate the buyers. I mean, you're in this business for the long haul. Make them understand why it's important to make real estate a part of their investment portfolio. Provide them with the products that at the end of the day will not only give them monetary rewards, but rather something that their family could live in. And lastly, please make sure that when you sell with the heart, sell with all honesty, and provide all the necessary data. Wag po nating i-shortchange yung ating mga buyers. Make them understand the beauty. Wag silang madala sa pagbili ng property or sa pag-invest, especially during these uncertain times. And lastly, make them remember that satisfying feeling of being home during COVID. That's what we all did when the pandemic happened. We all decided to come home. So at the end of the day, nothing beats the feeling of being home. And CLI is there to provide that home. Maraming salamat po, and I hope you learned something from us this afternoon. And congratulations, CLI. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tech. Thank you so much to our speakers. Before we conclude, we will now proceed with the awarding of certificates. Once again, our heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights with us today. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our moderator, Ms. Tex Samaniego, for expertly guiding today's conversation. Thank you. We hope today's session has provided you with valuable insights and a deeper understanding of why real estate continues to be a smart investment, even in uncertain times. Thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Inquirer Talks. Good afternoon. Daghang salamat.
Daghang salamat, Cebu. And again, please support the industry. Keep the industry alive. Good luck to every seller present here. And maraming salamat po. Thank you.